April 18, 2024, inside a federal courtroom in Manhattan, a jury reached its verdict. Avraham Eisenberg, guilty. Commodities fraud, commodities manipulation, wire fraud. For prosecutors, it was a landmark win. Welcome to Chain CSI. The Department of Justice called it the new frontier of old-school financial crimes. One trader had manipulated a market, inflated the value of his own collateral, and walked away with more than $100 million belonging to other people. The case appeared closed. 5 weeks later, the judge erased every conviction. Not because new evidence appeared, not because the money was returned. The court simply concluded prosecutors hadn't proven a crime under the law they'd charged. Almost overnight, one of the biggest criminal victories in crypto history became one of its biggest legal defeats. How does someone withdraw over $100 million from a decentralized exchange, admit it publicly, get convicted by a jury, and still walk free? To answer that, we have to go back to where it began, not in a courtroom, but inside a decentralized exchange built on Solana. In 2022, decentralized finance was booming. Billions flowing through apps that promised no banks, no paperwork, no approvals, just code. Users connected a wallet instead of opening an account. And every trade, loan, and liquidation happened automatically, following rules written into the code. One of those protocols was Mango markets, spot trading, leverage futures, and the ability to deposit collateral and borrow against it, all on Solana. It looked like a brokerage account, except no one was behind the scenes approving anything. Deposit collateral, and the protocol calculates how much you can borrow. Simple, in theory. But how does it know what your collateral is worth? Smart contracts can't check an exchange website, so they rely on an oracle, a feed reporting real-world prices onto the blockchain every few seconds. The protocol simply trusts that price. Most of the time, that's fine. But what happens if someone can temporarily push that price? Not by hacking it, just long enough for the protocol to believe an asset is worth far more than it is? That question became the foundation of one of the most controversial trades in crypto history. Unlike most exploits, there was no bug here, no stolen keys. Everything happened exactly as Mango had been programmed to allow. One trader realized that before anyone else. Before Mango, few outside crypto had heard of Avraham Eisenberg, known as Avi, not a developer, not a founder, a trader who looked for inefficiencies in markets and profited from them. By 2022, he'd built a reputation on crypto Twitter. To some, exceptionally sharp. To others, someone willing to push markets right to the edge. His name had already surfaced once before. Earlier that year, members of Fortress Deo accused him of exploiting its treasury redemption mechanism during shutdown, a roughly $14 million dispute. No charges followed, but it cemented his reputation as someone who understood DeFi's mechanics better than most. By late 2022, he was living in Puerto Rico, studying markets, liquidity, leverage. Independent investigator Chris Brunet publicly identified him as the likely Mango attacker within about 24 hours. Not from a leak, from digital breadcrumbs. Discord messages discussing the mechanics of the attack days before it happened. A wallet tied to him that later funded the exploit. What isn't disputed is what happened next. On the evening of October 11th, 2022, Avi initiated a sequence of trades that would change decentralized finance forever. It began with money traceable to Avi's own Circle account. Roughly 14 million USDC funneled through an exchange, then split into two newly opened Mango accounts. Nothing looked unusual at first. Large traders often run multiple accounts, but both belonged to Avi. One opened a huge long position on MNGO perpetual futures. The other took the exact opposite side. He was trading with himself. The positions alone did nothing. The price of MNGO had to rise fast. So Avi aggressively bought MNGO across multiple venues using other accounts he controlled. Within about 20 minutes, MNGO exploded from 3.8 cents to 54 cents, roughly a 1,300% increase. For most traders, that's unrealized profit. For Avi, it was borrowing power. Mango's software didn't ask why the price had risen. It just trusted the oracle, recalculated the collateral, and Avi's position suddenly looked worth hundreds of millions. Not because new money had entered the system, but because the number feeding into Mango had changed. That was enough collateral, by Mango's own math, to borrow enormous sums. No employee reviewed it. The software approved it automatically. USDCSOL, wrapped Bitcoin, USDT, more. Over $110 million left Mango markets. Then the buying stopped. MNGO crashed back down. The collateral vanished. But the borrowed assets were already gone. Users found their deposits visible on screen, but couldn't withdraw them. In under half an hour, one of Solana's largest DeFi protocols was effectively insolvent. For most hacks, this is where the chase begins. But within 48 hours, Mango wasn't hunting the attacker. It was negotiating with him. Instead of calling law enforcement, Mango Markets opened negotiations directly with the person who just drained its treasury. A decision born of desperation. No government backing, no deposit insurance, no bailout. So the Mango DAO put it to a vote. The proposal: return roughly $67 million, keep roughly $47 million. And in exchange, the DAO would agree not to pursue criminal complaints or freeze the rest. To many, it looked less like a settlement, more like a ransom. But supporters argued the protocol had no leverage. Some money back beat none. Then came the twist. The vote was decided by token holders. And one of those holders, according to prosecutors, was Avi himself. Because governance power was tied to MNGO holdings, the exploit had effectively handed him influence over his own settlement. It passed anyway, with about 96.6% approval. The $67 million came back and reimbursed stranded users. The remaining $47 million became the center of years of civil litigation before any lawyers filed a motion. Avi spoke publicly. 4 days after the exploit, he posted on Twitter, not denying involvement, confirming it, calling what he and a team had done a highly profitable trading strategy. Then came the line that would define his entire defense. I believe all of our actions were legal, open market actions, using the protocol as designed. That sentence split the crypto industry. To one side, he'd manipulated a market and stolen users' money. To the other, he'd simply found a weakness the protocol itself allowed. No forged signatures, no hacked contracts, just trades. Legal trades, or so he claimed. Federal investigators were about to test that. One day after the exploit, Avi flew to Israel. Timing investigators later called an effort to avoid arrest. His defense disputed that. Investigators already believed they knew who'd done it. The challenge was proving criminal intent. On December 23, 2022, prosecutors filed a sealed complaint. 3 days later, agents arrested Avi in Puerto Rico. Commodities fraud, commodities manipulation, wire fraud. The SEC and CFTC soon filed their own civil complaints, alleging the same manipulation. The government's strongest evidence wasn't blockchain data, it was Avi's browser history. Before and after the exploit, he'd searched market manipulation criminal. Elements of fraud, statute of limitations market manipulation, FBI surveillance, and researched extradition from Israel. Jurors also saw messages where he called MNGO primed for a pump. The government's theory, not that Avi hacked Mango, but that he'd manipulated the market to trick it into believing he held collateral that economically didn't really exist. A legal theory never before tested in a courtroom involving DeFi. In April 2024, that test began. After 9 days of testimony, the jury reached its decision. Guilty, or so everyone thought. This was the government's first criminal case built on open market manipulation inside DeFi. Over 9 days, prosecutors reconstructed October 11th as a deliberate plan. Fund two accounts, take opposite positions, drive the price up, inflate the collateral, borrow over $100 million, let the price collapse. The defense didn't dispute the facts, only the interpretation. Every trade happened on the open market, executed by willing counterparties. No forgery, no altered code, no stolen keys. The software accepted every transaction exactly as written. Their question, If the protocol allows a trade, can executing it really be fraud? On April 18th, 2024, the jury answered, guilty on every count. Most assumed the case was over. It wasn't. The defense had already asked the judge to throw out the verdict entirely. Few expected that to work. 1 month later, it did. On May 23, 2025, Judge Arun Subramanian issued a 35-page ruling that became one of the most discussed opinions in crypto history. Every conviction, gone. It looked like a declaration of innocence. It wasn't. The ruling was narrower than that. And more important, the first problem was geography. Federal cases must be tried in the right court, venue. Prosecutors brought the case in Manhattan, but Avi had executed every trade from Puerto Rico. Their justifications: employees of a company linked to an exchange who worked in Manhattan and a New York user who couldn't withdraw funds. The judge rejected both. Mere consequences of the alleged crime, he said, not essential parts of it. Without proper venue, the convictions couldn't stand. That alone would have been enough. But the opinion went further, into fraud itself. The government's theory rested on a simple idea. Borrowing implies a promise to repay. The judge asked whether Mango actually required that promise, and found it didn't. No lending agreement, no signed contract, no terms of service, no rule against manipulation. Everything happened automatically. The oracle reported a price. The software calculated collateral. The protocol approved the withdrawal. No human ever clicked approve. One line spread across the industry instantly. Of Mango's borrow function, the judge wrote, that word borrow could have been access collateral, utilize assets, or anything else for that matter. He wasn't praising Avi. He was making a technical point. Fraud law requires a material misrepresentation, and the government hadn't shown one. The protocol never asked why the collateral had increased. It just trusted the oracle, exactly as designed. Notably, the judge also found sufficient evidence of a manipulative trading strategy. He wasn't saying the conduct was fine, just that prosecutors had charged it in the wrong place, under the wrong theory, almost overnight. A landmark prosecution became a landmark acquittal. For DeFi's defenders, the strongest judicial endorsement yet of a four-word philosophy. Code is law. For regulators, a warning. Fortunately for prosecutors, the story wasn't over. Within weeks, prosecutors appealed, arguing the court had read fraud law far too narrowly, that borrowing inherently implies an obligation to repay, whether that promise is spoken, written, or executed in code. They noted Mango's documentation described borrowing, interest, and the need to maintain a healthy collateral ratio. Most importantly, they rejected the idea that DeFi deserves special legal treatment. Whether a loan is approved by a banker or an algorithm, the law should be the same. That appeal remains unresolved today. The legal status of the Mango exploit still being decided. Meanwhile, the SEC and CFTC continue their own civil cases, unaffected by the criminal acquittal. There's one more thread. During the investigation, authorities found child sexual abuse material on devices seized from Eisenberg, a matter entirely separate from the Mango exploit. In 2025, he was sentenced to 52 months in federal prison on that unrelated charge. It has no bearing on whether the Mango trades were legal, but it's why he remains incarcerated while the appeal continues. For decades, financial law assumed a person always made the final call. A banker, a broker, someone who could be deceived. DeFi challenged that. Software became the banker. Algorithms became the risk manager. Smart contracts became the agreement. The Mango Markets case exposed a question lawmakers had never truly faced. What happens when nobody lies? Nobody hacks anything. Every transaction is technically valid, and one trader still walks away with over $100 million? Was it theft, or the predictable outcome of rules written into code? A jury believed it was fraud. A federal judge said the government hadn't proven it. Now an appeals court must decide. And whatever that decision is, its impact will reach far beyond Mango Markets. Because this was never just about one trader or one protocol. It was about whether laws written for human institutions can keep pace with financial systems run by software. Until that question is answered, the Mango Market's exploit won't just be remembered as one of crypto's most controversial trades. It may be remembered as the case that forced the legal system to decide whether, in decentralized finance, code can become the law. This is Chain CSI, investigating the crimes hidden on-chain. If you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe and join us for the next case, because the next clue is already on the blockchain.